for the youth engaged in this program. The government has proposed that the youth registered in the program pay a registration fee of 10,000 for the next 3 years in lieu of income tax with effect from January 2020. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, I propose to amend the income tax in order to exempt registered members from the regular taxation for a specified period. Mr. Speaker, this registration fee will be paid to the Ajira Fund, through which the youth-oriented program will be financed for the benefit of our young people who need to be engaged in tangible programs. In this regard, a framework for the registration of the Ajira members, the modalities of collecting the fee, as well as the structure for the utilization of the fund will be put in place. Mr. Speaker, this fund that will promote growth of local businesses that generate digital and digitally enabled jobs. In this respect, I have set aside 1 billion Kenya shillings as seed capital for the fund. I encourage the youth and women to take advantage of this funding window to establish and grow their business. Mr. Speaker, in order to take full advantage of the preference and reservations in the Procurement Act and to promote local industries through the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative, we are in the process of developing a catalogue of items that are locally manufactured, assembled, mined, or grown in Kenya, and which will be given priority in public procurement. Accordingly, no tax exemptions will be provided for any items on the catalogues. In this respect, Mr. Speaker, with effects from 1st July 2019, all ministries, departments, agencies, and other public entities are required to give exclusive preference in procurement of motor vehicles and motorcycles from farms that have assembly plants in Kenya. This will go a long way in inspiring the growth of local auxiliary industries and enterprise and create employment opportunities to the youth. Mr. Speaker, we have received numerous complaints relating to the late payment and even non-payment of suppliers by businesses and contractors who enjoy relatively superior bargaining position. The most affected are small and medium enterprises. To address this situation, Mr. Speaker, I have proposed amendments to the Competition Act to empower the Competition Authority to deal with abuse of buyer power and ensure prompt payment to suppliers. The proposed amendment shall also provide for penalties for infringement of these provisions. Further, Mr. Speaker, going forward, the National Treasury will endeavor to ensure that payments to suppliers of goods and services to the national government are made within a maximum of 60 days. This, Mr. Speaker, will support our MSMEs and the business community. I expect all the 47 county governments to take cue from this and ensure prompt payment for all supplies delivered to their respective counties. Mr. Speaker, government will streamline the process of pre-verification of conformity, PVOC, so that our business communities stop suffering demurrage charges and other costs while clearing their goods at the port of entry. This has been caused by additional inspection of imports by the Kenya Bureau of Standards and a host of other agencies. Mr. Speaker, to address this challenge, it has been decided that once the pre-verification of conformity has been done at the point of export and information related to our customs and standards teams, the same goods should not be subjected to further inspection unless there is a prior intelligence on non-compliance. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the logistics at the port and at the inland container depot will be streamlined to have customs and essential standards team only. Mr. Speaker, turning to expenditures, we must ensure that our scarce resources are used in most efficient and effective manner. Accordingly, since the start of this financial year, government has implemented new initiatives to contain growth of expenditure. First, we adopted a zero-based budgeting process to weed out non-priority expenditures from the budget. Second, we have adopted a policy of no new projects to ensure that government completes ongoing projects. Third, we are reviewing the portfolio of externally funded projects with a view to restructure with a view to restructuring and realigning them with the Big Four plan. And fourth, we are taking measures to reduce spending on some specific programs which are not of high priority. All these initiatives, Mr. Speaker, have helped to lower our expenditures. Going forward, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to take bold actions to contain our expenditures further in the next financial year in order to further reduce the deficit. This will entail the following. Mr. Speaker, the public sector wage bill continues to rise, leaving fewer and fewer resources for development. Certainly, this is not a good practice, and no meaningful development can be realized unless we reverse the trend. Mr. Speaker, in order to contain the wage bill, I propose that we limit strictly the extension of services for the significant number of civil servants who are retiring at the age of 60 years. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we will restrict new recruitment to key technical staff, security personnel, teachers, and health workers. Further, Mr. Speaker, a cleansing of the wage bill will be undertaken to root out ghost workers. Government will also fast-track migration away from the current integrated payroll and personnel database system to the IFMIS human resource module to improve payroll management. Mr. Speaker, expenditure on domestic and foreign travel has been growing due to frequent travels. To limit this expenditure, we are exploring the use of a more efficient cost-cutting approach, including use of electronic card system for all public officers traveling within and outside the country. This card would be preloaded with subsistence allowance to be expended by officers traveling on official duty on eligible expenditures only. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet is considering a new government transport policy that will standardize the institutional framework for fleet management and use of fuel cards across government in order to improve efficiency and cut costs. In addition, the policy will promote local industries by requiring that all government vehicles be procured only from the locally assembled plants. Mr. Speaker, the government has been leasing office space at higher than market rates, resulting in huge costs to government. Beginning 1st July 2019, all procurement of office accommodation by government will be standardized with uniform cost leases, and existing contracts will be renegotiated to ensure a standard rate. Mr. Speaker, we are on course towards providing an electronic end-to-end solution on all procurement processes. Mr. Speaker, this will significantly enhance efficiency, transparency, and accountability in procurement. It will further provide procurement audit trails, enhance reporting and procurement analytics for better monitoring of the public procurement system, efficient and electronic archiving of procurement records, and availability of online appeal and complaint mechanism, among others. Mr. Speaker, we are now in the final stage of issuing the new public procurement and asset disposal regulation to fully operationalize the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015. Our assessment shows that significant savings can be achieved under framework procurement and the new institutional arrangement for common user items that have been